Do not move yet, my child. Stay with me for just one more moment, because I am speaking from the place where I have watched you quietly breaking, even when no one else could see it. Before your attention shifts somewhere else, before another voice fills your mind, before another thought pulls you away. Listen to me now. I know how quickly you convince yourself to keep going as though everything within you is still holding together. I know how often you continue walking while, deep inside, something is slowly coming apart. That is why I am stopping you here, because this moment is far more important than you realize. I have seen everything you have been carrying in secret, and I will not remain silent while you continue bearing a weight that has been pressing so deeply against your heart. I am speaking to you, music, from the place where every hidden tear you thought no one noticed has already reached me. I am speaking from the place where every sigh you never found the words to explain has already been heard. I am speaking from the place where your sleepless nights, your exhausting mornings, your silent pauses, and those moments when you appeared perfectly fine to everyone around you while quietly feeling weak inside were never hidden from my eyes. You may have believed that no one understood how much strength it took just to keep your face calm. You may have wondered if anyone noticed how many times you swallowed your words because you simply could not explain what was happening inside your heart. But I saw every single moment. That is why I am calling to you now before you take another step while carrying the same unbearable weight. I am crying for you because I see what you continue, music, to carry while convincing everyone, including yourself, that you are still strong. I see how often you whisper to yourself that you can survive just one more day, shoulder one more burden, hide one more struggle, wrestle with one more heavy thought, endure one more silent fear. I see how naturally you have learned to answer everyone else's needs while burying the pain that lives within your own heart. I see how you have trained yourself to stay dependable, available, responsive, and steady, even while your soul has been quietly pleading for rest. And I want you to hear me clearly now. What you have been carrying has touched my heart deeply, because you were never created to survive by forcing strength into places where healing was always needed. What you are holding right now is hurting you far more deeply than you allow yourself to admit. Even you have not fully realized how far it has reached into your thoughts, how powerfully it has shaped your emotions, or how quietly it has stolen your peace. Some burdens stay with us for so long that they begin to feel normal. We stop noticing their weight until our spirit slowly starts giving way beneath them. What you dismiss as ordinary exhaustion is not always just tiredness. What you call another difficult day is not always simple pressure. There are things within you that have remained far too long, and because they settled in so quietly, you learn to live alongside them without recognizing how much of your strength they continue to take from you every single day. I know the moments you never put into words. I know the nights when everything around you was silent, yet your mind refused to be still. I know how often you lay down hoping that sleep would ease the heaviness, only to wake up with the very same weight still resting on your soul. I know the times you sat by yourself and felt your chest grow tight for reasons you could not completely understand. I know when tears filled your eyes only for you to wipe them away before anyone could ever ask why. I know those deeply private moments when you stared into the distance, overwhelmed by emotions you could barely separate. Fear, disappointment, confusion, exhaustion, and an aching desire for relief that you could not even explain to yourself. This message is not for everyone. It is for the one who has mastered the art of smiling while quietly falling apart inside. It is for the one who still replies to messages, still speaks with kindness, still shows up for others, yet inwardly feels stretched thinner with every passing day in ways no one truly sees. It is for the one who keeps fulfilling responsibilities while carrying a hidden heaviness deep within the heart. It is for the one who says, "I'm fine," while secretly hoping someone might look a little closer and realize that fine is no longer what the soul feels like. You have become incredibly skilled at surviving in silence. You have taught yourself how to keep moving even when your spirit feels exhausted. You have learned how to stand confidently before others while hiding just how relentlessly certain thoughts continue to follow you. But surviving is not the same as healing. Enduring is not the same as being restored. I never created you simply to carry every burden until your heart becomes numb. I created you to walk closely with me, to experience the kind of relationship where what weighs you down is laid at my feet instead of being carried until your inner strength begins to fracture. So I'm telling you now, do this today, not later, because every delay only makes the burden heavier. Every time you tell yourself, tomorrow, the weight remains exactly where it is. Every time you choose to carry it for one more day, it becomes more familiar, settling even deeper into your heart and your daily life. Every postponed surrender gives that heaviness more space, than it was ever meant to occupy. I am not asking because I need perfect words from you. I am asking because your soul needs release now, not after another sleepless night, not after another exhausting day of pretending you are less affected than you truly are. Comment, Jesus, I'm nothing without you. If he is your only foundation, you were never created to survive by carrying everything on your own. Let those words sink deep into your heart. You were never created to bear every fear, every unanswered question, every disappointment, every old wound, every regret, every pressure, and still expect your spirit to remain untouched. There are burdens your hands were never meant to carry. There are sorrows that should have been placed before me, long before they settled into silent heaviness. And whatever remains unlaid at my feet today may become even heavier tomorrow. I do not say this to fill you with fear, but because whatever stays hidden has a way of taking root. A burden rarely stays the same when it is fed by silence and delayed surrender. Fear grows stronger when it is repeated over and over inside without being released. Anger becomes heavier when it is guarded instead of surrendered. Guilt cuts deeper when it is carried alone for too long. Even disappointment becomes more painful when it is allowed to settle in your heart without being brought honestly before me. You may already feel exhausted in ways that sleep has never been able to fix. Perhaps you have noticed that rest no longer restores what feels empty within you. Your body sleeps, yet your soul wakes carrying the same heaviness. You stop for a moment, but your mind refuses to stop carrying pressure. You distract yourself, yet something still lingers beneath the surface, waiting. That is because not every kind of tiredness begins in the body. Some exhaustion starts in the heart. Some begins in the emotions. Some begins deep within the spirit. Your body may lie down, but your heart is still standing beneath a weight it was never meant to bear. I see how close your heart has come to emotional exhaustion, even if no one around you recognizes it. I see the place where just one more hidden burden could feel like too much. I see how carefully you have held yourself together. I see how many times you chose silence, because trying to explain everything felt more difficult than saying nothing at all. I see how often tears nearly spoke before words ever could, even when others simply believed you were being quiet. I knew there was a deeper battle taking place within you. So, before you answer another person, answer me. Before you continue solving problems, replying to everyone, helping, fixing, and carrying everything, stop here for a moment and allow your heart to become completely honest before me. I am not asking for perfect words or polished prayers. I am asking for truth. Stop pretending with me, because I already know what you have been carrying. I already know your burden by name, even if you have never spoken it out loud. What you are carrying is affecting far more than you realize. It is touching your peace. It is shaping the way you think. It is quietly draining your strength. It is making fear rise more easily than before. It is even influencing how deeply joy can settle. A burden never stays confined to just one corner of the soul. It quietly spreads into your thoughts, your reactions, your energy, and even your ability to hope. Perhaps the burden you carry is fear. The fear that old pain will return, or the fear that what you long for will disappoint you once again. Perhaps it is guilt, something you continue to replay in your mind, wishing the outcome had been different. Perhaps it is the pain of words spoken years ago that still echo in your heart when you least expect them. Perhaps it is disappointment that settled in after waiting so long for something that never came. Perhaps hidden anger has remained buried within you because you never felt safe enough to release it honestly. Or perhaps silent grief still lingers because a part of your heart has never fully healed from what was lost. Whatever your burden may be, one honest act of surrender in this very moment has the power to begin changing everything within you. Peace does not always begin after everything around you changes. Sometimes it begins the moment the burden leaves your hands and rests in mine. Sometimes relief comes before circumstances ever shift, because surrender creates room where pressure once ruled. Please support our channel. Our mission is to bring hope, encouragement, and a deeper devotion to God into your life. If you would like to support this work, you can do so through Ko-fi. The link is available in the description. Do not delay the release your soul needs today. Not because tomorrow will never come, but because today already carries my invitation. Why continue holding what you were never meant to carry? Why protect your pain as though carrying it longer somehow proves your strength? Why remain silent when I am already here, already listening, and already waiting for you? So, bring it to me now. Not after another hour of overthinking, not after another conversation, not after one more attempt to carry it all by yourself. Lay it down here because I have already been waiting at the very place where your surrender begins. I am not standing far away from you. I am not calling to you from a distance. I am here right where your honesty begins to open, where hidden tears become prayers, where your weary heart no longer has to pretend it is strong enough to carry every weight. Drop it here, my child. Let this very moment become the place where your heart finally releases what it was never meant to carry. My child, I stopped you before you could go any further because this interruption is not accidental, it is intentional. I did not speak into this moment by chance, and I did not call your attention without purpose. Before this day reached this point, before your thoughts became occupied with everything you planned to do, before your heart picked up one more silent burden to add to the ones it was already carrying, I had already chosen this moment to meet you. I knew exactly where your mind would be. I knew what your emotions would feel like beneath the surface. I knew what had already touched your spirit long before anyone else noticed anything at all. That is why I did not wait until later. That is why I reached for you now while you are still in the middle of everything. Because there are moments that cannot be postponed, when a soul has already carried too much. Heaven prepared this very moment, long before you understood why your attention stopped here. You may think you simply paused because something caught your eye, because a certain word held your attention, or because your curiosity was stirred for a brief moment. But what drew you here runs far deeper than curiosity. There was something within your spirit pulling you toward this moment, and that inward pull was never random. Every day, countless voices compete for your attention. So many demands fight for your time, so many distractions surround your life. Yet this moment opened because I desired your heart to become still long enough to hear my voice before the noise of the day carried you back into silence once again. You did not arrive at these words by accident. You are not here because of coincidence. I allowed your attention to pause because I knew your spirit needed this interruption before the hidden heaviness inside you became even more difficult to bear. I know how often you keep moving without ever stopping. I know how many times you continue forward even while something deep within you quietly cries out for relief. You have become remarkably skilled at pushing through exhaustion. You know how to respond when people speak to you. You know how to finish everything that needs to be done. You know how to remain present enough that everyone around you believes you are doing just fine. But I also know the truth, hidden beneath what others can see. I know when your smile costs you more strength than anyone could ever imagine. I know when silence becomes the only place where you hide the feelings you cannot explain. I know when your heart chooses not to speak, because putting your pain into words feels even harder than quietly carrying it alone. That is why I tell you once again, this interruption is not an accident. I stepped into this very moment because I saw what was already beginning to build inside you today. Even before this hour arrived, there were already thoughts gathering inside you. Some were old thoughts returning. Some were new pressures quietly joining what you already felt. Some were fears that entered without invitation. Some were emotions you tried to ignore because there seemed to be no space to sit with them. I saw all of it. I saw the moment your mind became heavier, even while your body kept moving. I saw the inward tiredness that no one around you could fully see. You may think the day had not yet become too heavy, but I know how hidden heaviness grows when it is left uninterrupted. I know how one silent burden invites another. I know how a person can begin the day carrying something small. Then by evening, wonder why everything feels harder than expected. Emotional weight rarely arrives all at once. More often, it builds quietly, layer by layer, until the heart begins to carry a pressure it cannot even explain. That is why I came to you now, before more layers settled, before one more hidden feeling made the room inside your heart even heavier. Divine interruption often comes before deeper collapse, because I love you too much to remain silent while you continue carrying what is slowly draining your spirit. I do not wait until your tears become visible before I care. I do not wait until words finally leave your lips before I pay attention. I see the signs long before you recognize them yourself. I notice when your spirit begins to withdraw inward. I notice when your thoughts become heavier than usual. I notice when your breathing changes, because something inside feels overwhelmed. I notice when you grow quiet, not because peace has come, but because you are tired of trying to explain what even you struggle to understand. There are times when people believe they are still fine, simply because they are still functioning. They say, "I am managing," because nothing around them has completely stopped. But functioning is not always peace. Continuing is not always strength. A person can keep completing responsibilities while quietly becoming weaker beneath hidden pressure. A person can still answer others while feeling close to emotional exhaustion. A person can still appear calm while carrying thoughts that press deeply beneath the surface. That is why I interrupt before the collapse becomes visible. I speak while there is still time to release what has not yet become too heavy to name. Do not keep carrying everything in silence, as though silence alone can heal what is weighing on you. Silence may hide pain, but it cannot heal it. Silence may delay expression, but it cannot remove the burden by itself. You have stayed silent through many moments, because speaking felt too difficult, because you believed it might simply pass, because you hoped tomorrow would somehow feel lighter. But some things do not become lighter, simply because time moves forward. Some things become lighter only when they are honestly laid down. Breathe new life into me, Lord, if what your heart longs for is renewal. I know how quickly you tell yourself, "I'll deal with it later." I know how often you choose to carry the weight for one more hour because it never seems like the right time to stop. Yet the burden does not disappear while you postpone it. It quietly remains within you, shaping your thoughts, influencing your emotions, and limiting how deeply peace can settle into your heart. That is why this moment matters. Not because of panic or fear, but because of honesty. Your soul was never meant to keep carrying what is already asking to be released. There is a hidden exhaustion inside you that others may never fully recognize. I see how tired you are in ways that sleep has not been able to restore. I see how some mornings begin with heaviness before anything has even happened. I see how certain thoughts arrive before your day has truly begun. I see how your body keeps moving while your spirit already feels stretched before noon. Hidden exhaustion is difficult because people usually notice only what you continue doing, never what it costs your heart to keep doing it. Even the smallest disappointments can now feel much heavier than they should, because hidden exhaustion changes the way your heart experiences ordinary moments. A small disappointment feels greater. A simple delay feels more painful. A brief silence suddenly seems filled with meaning when your inner self is weary. Even ordinary moments reach deeper places within you. This does not mean you are weak. It means your heart has been carrying more than it was ever meant to hold. I know there are moments when you have asked yourself why you feel so overwhelmed, even though nothing dramatic happened that day. The reason is that much of what weighs on you did not begin today. Some of it has been quietly building for many days. Some of it has remained because you kept choosing to stay strong instead of allowing your soul to truly rest. Some of it stayed because you believed others needed your strength more than you needed your own healing. But listen carefully. I stopped you here because I do not want hidden exhaustion to become your normal way of living. I do not want you to call silent heaviness ordinary simply because it has stayed with you for so long. I do not want you to mistake emotional pressure for strength, simply because you have learned to keep moving beside it. Heaven often interrupts when someone is about to place one more burden onto a heart that is already near its limit. That is exactly what this moment is. I saw how close your inner world was to becoming too crowded once again today. I saw how certain thoughts were already gathering strength. I saw how one more silent hour could deepen what should instead be brought into the light. So I am calling you, gently, yet clearly. Stop here for this moment. Let this interruption matter. Let it become more than just another passing message. Breathe slowly and be honest with yourself about what you have been carrying in silence. Not because I do not already know, but because your heart needs honesty before peace can truly grow. You do not have to explain everything perfectly to me. I am not asking for polished words. I am simply asking you not to keep moving forward pretending you are less affected than you really are. I'm asking you not to cover your hidden weariness with another layer of silence. I'm asking you not to keep protecting burdens simply because they have become familiar. This interruption is love, my child. It is not pressure. It is not condemnation. It is me refusing to let you walk deeper into this day unheard while your spirit quietly longs for relief. It is me standing before your silent exhaustion and saying, you do not have to carry this one step farther before speaking to me. So stay here a little longer. Let your heart soften instead of growing tight once again. Let the deepest part of you become honest. Heaven arranged this very moment because your hidden exhaustion mattered enough for me to stop you before you went any farther, before another layer settled, before one more silent hour convinced you that carrying everything alone was still the answer. My child, the weight you keep calling strength is not strength in the way you believe it is. I know why you learned to carry so much without speaking. I know why you became the person who keeps going, even when something inside is quietly begging for rest. Life taught you early that stopping was not always an option. Pain taught you how to remain standing while your heart was still trying to understand what it had just endured. Disappointment taught you how to keep moving forward even when answers never came. Responsibility taught you that many things would still demand your attention, even on the days when your own spirit felt weak. Little by little, you learned to survive by carrying far more than you were ever meant to hold. At first, it may have seemed necessary. There were moments when no one truly understood what was happening inside you, so you gathered yourself together and kept moving. There were days when speaking required more strength than you had, so you chose silence and continued walking. There were seasons when people depended on your strength, and because they needed something from you, you gave everything you could. Even when your own heart was exhausted, over time, what began as survival slowly became a habit. What was meant to be temporary endurance gradually became the way you faced everything. Now there are burdens you no longer question, because carrying them has become normal. But I need you to understand something. Survival can create patterns that appear strong while quietly wounding the heart. A person can become so accustomed to carrying heavy loads that they forget how heavy they truly are. A person can begin calling constant pressure normal simply because it has remained long enough to feel familiar. You have carried thoughts, emotions, worries, and responsibilities for so long that sometimes you no longer notice what they are costing your spirit, until exhaustion suddenly overwhelms you without explanation. There are hidden burdens within you disguised as responsibility. Some things you call duty are actually driven by fear. Some things you call maturity are really the habit of never allowing yourself to lean on anyone. Some things you call being dependable are also ways of protecting yourself from admitting how desperately you need relief. Responsibility is a beautiful thing when carried in its proper place. But when responsibility becomes the place where every burden hides, your heart begins carrying what it was never meant to bear alone. You keep telling yourself that you must think ahead, that you must always stay prepared, that you must hold everything together because if you loosen your grip, something might fall apart. So you carry not only what belongs to today, but also what may happen tomorrow. You carry possible outcomes that have not yet arrived. You carry conversations that have not even happened. You carry fear over situations you cannot control. You carry emotional weight that was never truly yours to bear, yet because your heart cares so deeply, you willingly place it upon your own shoulders. Sometimes hidden burdens appear as constant mental checking, always reviewing what still needs your attention, always wondering what could go wrong, always returning to unfinished concerns. Sometimes they appear as emotional guarding, staying alert because a part of you is afraid of being disappointed again. Sometimes they appear as silent pressure, convincing yourself that you must keep the peace, keep everything together, keep everyone comfortable, while your own heart is left unattended. You call this strength because it has helped you survive, and yes, endurance has carried you through many difficult seasons. But endurance by itself is not the same as healing. Endurance alone is not always wisdom. When endurance exists without release, it quietly becomes a source of damage because your soul was never created to carry every burden without rest. Deep within you, that damage begins forming whenever pressure remains too long, without honest surrender. It rarely appears all at once. More often it grows quietly. Peace becomes harder to hold on to. Small things begin affecting you more deeply than they once did. A brief delay feels heavier than it should. A simple word touches hidden wounds more quickly. Your thoughts grow tired with greater ease. Your patience becomes shorter without any obvious reason. Your heart becomes more sensitive in ways you struggle to explain because it has been carrying far too much for far too long. You may still be functioning outwardly and believe that everything is under control. You still answer people. You still complete your responsibilities. You still move through each day. You still speak, work, plan, and keep going. But what others see on the outside does not always reveal what inward exhaustion is quietly doing beneath the surface. Many people appear steady while hidden weariness continues growing inside them. I see the emotional fatigue beneath everything you do. I see the moments when speaking feels harder than usual, even though nothing dramatic has happened. I see when your mind grows weary, not because the day has been impossible, but because your heart was already carrying too much before the day had even begun. I see those moments when you finally sit still and suddenly feel the weight more clearly, because staying busy had been hiding it. Emotional fatigue often speaks in quiet ways. It does not always come through tears. Sometimes it shows itself as numbness. Sometimes it steals your excitement even when something good happens. Sometimes it returns as a quiet heaviness at unexpected moments. Sometimes it makes you long for silence because there are already too many voices inside your own mind. Sometimes it appears as a tiredness that even sleep cannot fully remove. You may have noticed that certain days feel unusually heavy without any clear explanation. That is because hidden burdens rarely announce themselves loudly. They simply remain day after day until your soul begins revealing the signs that it has been carrying too much for too long. Your body may rest, yet your mind never truly slows down. The day may seem ordinary, yet something inside you still feels stretched to its limit. Even when no crisis is happening, your spirit can still feel as though it has never truly laid down everything it has been carrying. Carrying too much has become dangerous, because when burdens remain for too long, they begin changing the way you see everything around. Fear starts speaking louder than peace. Small concerns begin to feel much bigger than they really are. Hope becomes harder to hold on to. Joy struggles to remain because inward pressure leaves so little room for it. Even the simplest decisions begin to feel heavy because your heart is already exhausted before the decision even arrives. Danger does not always appear as a sudden collapse. Sometimes it comes through a slow hardening of the heart. A heart that carries too much for too long begins protecting itself in ways that make closeness more difficult. A weary spirit can grow quiet, not because it has found peace, but because it no longer has the energy to remain open. A person can stop expecting relief because carrying the weight has become the normal rhythm of life. That is why I speak to you now with both tenderness and seriousness. Do not mistake long-term carrying for true strength. There is a difference between faithful endurance and silent overload. Faithful endurance keeps your heart connected to me, even while you walk through difficult seasons. Silent overload keeps everything locked inside, hoping the burden will somehow become lighter on its own. The weight you keep calling strength has also taught you to feel guilty whenever you try to rest. The moment you pause, your thoughts rush back, reminding you there is still more to think about, more to solve, and more to prepare for. Rest becomes difficult because your mind has been trained to stay constantly alert. But your heart cannot remain healthy if it never truly releases what it was never meant to control. You were never created to prove your strength by carrying everything endlessly. True strength is found more in surrender than in silent endurance. True strength begins when a soul finally admits, "This is too heavy to carry alone." True strength trusts that placing a burden into my hands is not failure, it is wisdom. What you have called strength may have helped you survive earlier seasons. But now I'm showing you that survival patterns cannot remain forever if your peace is going to deepen. What once protected you may now be exhausting you. What once kept you moving forward may now be draining your ability to feel light again. Even so, I do not speak these words to condemn you. I speak because I love you enough to reveal what hidden fatigue has been quietly doing within you. I want you to recognize that some burdens you have honored as signs of maturity are actually waiting to be released. Some weights you believed proved your loyalty are quietly asking to be surrendered. There are responsibilities that truly belong to your care. Yes, but there are also burdens you have continued holding that belong in my hands. Not every concern about tomorrow belongs in your thoughts tonight. Not every fear deserves your constant attention. Not every emotional wound should remain guarded simply because it has become familiar. Healing begins when the heart no longer treats overload as its identity. You are not the weight you carry. You are not defined by how much pressure you can silently endure. You are not measured by how long you can continue without receiving the inward relief your soul longs for. So look honestly at what you have been calling strength. Notice what has been hiding beneath your sense of responsibility. Notice what your spirit has continued carrying simply because, long ago, you learned how to keep going. And as you recognize it, remember this gentle truth. Whatever has become too heavy should never remain hidden, simply because you have become skilled at carrying it. Your soul still needs release, even when your face appears calm. I am here to remind you once again that true strength is not measured by how much you can silently endure, but by how deeply you trust me with what your hands were never meant to carry forever. My child, I need you to understand why I am speaking to you with such tenderness today. My words are not coming from a distance. They are flowing from a love that has never left your side, even during the moments when you believed you were carrying everything alone. My heart grieves as I watch you bear this weight, because what is happening inside you matters deeply to me. Your hidden suffering is never small in my eyes, simply because others cannot see it. The weight resting quietly upon your heart, the heaviness you keep pushing down so no one asks questions, the silent ache you continue carrying every day, none of it passes before me unnoticed. I feel what touches your heart more deeply than you realize, and I do not watch your inward struggle without grieving as I see how long you have tried to carry it without fully placing it into my hands. You may think that because your pain is quiet, it does not deserve attention. You may believe that because you are still functioning, still speaking, still answering, still moving through your day, what you are feeling is not serious enough to stop for. But I tell you this, hidden suffering often reaches deeper than visible tears because it lives in the place where words are hardest to find. Some pain remains so quiet that even the one carrying it forgets how deeply it has settled. Yet your silence has never made it invisible to me. Your silence has never made it lighter in heaven. Your silence has never caused me to turn away. I do not grieve because I am powerless before your pain. I grieve because love can never remain untouched while someone deeply loved suffers in silence for too long. Love notices. Love responds. Love feels sorrow when it sees a heart carrying more than it was ever meant to bear. You were never just another passing life to me. You were never another distant soul moving through this world unseen or unknown. I know the sound of your silence. I recognize the weariness that settles into your eyes when no one else notices. I know the moments when you stop speaking, not because you have nothing to say, but because finding the words feels harder than carrying the pain alone. There are moments when you sit among others with a calm face while hidden thoughts quietly press against your heart. There are moments when you answer with kindness, even while another part of you feels exhausted and unseen. There are moments when you continue doing everything that is expected of you, while deep inside your heart is gently crying out for relief. And in every one of those moments, I am there. I do not arrive after the moment has passed. I am with you while it is happening. I feel what touches your spirit. I hear the prayers you never speak aloud. My grief over your hidden suffering comes from seeing how often you have taught yourself to keep going while hurting inside. I have watched you remain silent because you did not want to become a burden to anyone else. I have watched you lower your eyes because the tears came too close to falling. I have watched you take slow breaths just to steady emotions that were ready to overflow. I have watched you keep moving because life did not stop simply because your heart was heavy. And every time you did, I understood not only what you were doing, but also the price your heart was paying. There were moments when you believed no one noticed simply because no one asked. There were moments when your silence went untouched while the world around you kept moving forward. But the absence of human attention has never meant the absence of mine. Heaven has never overlooked what the world failed to see. What others pass by without noticing has always remained fully known before me. Say, Father, you are my unshakable hope, if you are standing on his promises, and share this video.